Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, a World Alternative Media, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen, and a quite humorous story if you really think about it. Saudi Arabia has doubled the price of gasoline in the country, and as this article from CNBC goes into, King Solomon formally announced on December 20th that the target date for eliminating the government's budget deficit would be pushed back to 2023 from the original target of 2020 in order to reduce pressure on economic growth. And of course, there's been constant problems in Saudi Arabia lately, just massive, out of control, big government at the same time as a country that is based around the petro, based around petroleum, and just thinking of the fact that they're so dependent on this system and they are so incredibly authoritarian, as most governments are, but they really take the cake, guys. And they're such master manipulators. I mean, this is just a sign of the times we're living in. This is just another sign of what we've gone into so many times. We saw similar things start to happen with Venezuela quite a few years ago. John, can you go into this?
Yeah, well, what we're seeing is the end of the petrodollar system. Because remember back in the 70s, Mr. Kissinger went and made a deal with the Saudis to sell their oil in dollars. And that's what we're seeing. This is the end of it. This is why Saudi Arabia is struggling currently and having a massive deficit. Well, they never had a deficit until like last year. So we're seeing they're falling apart. Their whole economy that was massively dependent on oil is just crumbling underneath them. And of course, it's fueled by the UN trying to get a push away from oil, which we seen. They want to have solar, the Sustainable Development Movement. But I think this whole dependency from a government perspective on sucking out all the money from a commodity has been shown to be proven so deadly for a lot of economies, especially Venezuela and South Sudan. They're the major economies that ended up in hyperinflations because of this. And of course, Nigeria, Norway, a whole bunch of other oil countries are massively struggling because of this.
Canada is kind of seeing that too.
Exactly. So we're also a big oil country, and believe it or not, but it's we're very dependent on commodities. And as prices was down, we're really struggling. And we're seeing this massive power shift around the world where the countries that used to be in control, especially Saudi Arabia, is falling with the fall of the US dollar standard as a world reserve currency. And we're seeing them kind of like falling completely together. What is coming next over the next couple of years? Who knows? I don't.
Well, I actually wanted to quickly ask you, John, because this is inevitable. We knew this was going to happen eventually. We've talked about it before. But when we see something like this happen to Saudi Arabia, what do you think it has in store for Saudi Arabia going through 2018? Like, what is the next stop in the domino fall when this kind of thing happens?
Well, I guess they're going to be desperate. They're trying to get Saudi Aramco, which used to be a monopoly owned by the government. They're trying to IPO it, onto the public. I think that's I don't know what's going to happen. They've been trying to do this for the last 2 years now. And of course, the banksters want this to happen big time because they make all their money on when they run IPOs. But now we have ICOs, so goodbye to this whole banks to control of being able to put companies out there and issue shares. Now the tokens and ICOs are eviscerating the banksters' control, and the banksters are getting destroyed everywhere, Josh. They're getting eviscerated by this new blockchain technology, and they're desperately trying every single attempt of the day now to say bad things about it. Of course,
unless you're talking about centrally planning on the blockchain and pushing forward the global central.
That's what they're trying to do desperately. But Jamie Dimon, as Max Kaiser calls him, the tapeworm, is really failing right now. They've been sucking out nutrients from the body from the whole world over so many years, and now there's nothing left to suck out, and the parasite will die. That's what we're seeing here, and it's gonna just happen on a more rapid scale in the coming years.
Well, ain't Keynesianism great? John, how does this affect the rest of the world?
Well, how it's going to affect the rest of the world, the Saudis have been investing all over the place. There's going to be less money coming into other economies from the Saudis because they have to try to cover up their own economy that is failing. So I think we're going to see the economy just slowly stalling more and more as this whole like amount of massive push of just free money been slushing around the world. I think we're going to see deflation biting really hard this year. And as that happens, you know, the central banks, they're going to fight back. And who knows, it could be hyperinflation as soon as this year. But I see it coming very rapid. I can't see how they're going to, you know, be able to manipulate
It's insane.
this
How can they possibly manipulate it more? Of course, as we always say, all fiat currencies eventually revert to their intrinsic value of zero. They always have. They always will, going back to 1024 AD. But on top of that, all the fundamentals are off the table in the monetary system due to the level of manipulation. So you can't put a date on the crash. You just know it's going to happen. And the telltale signs are just building up to an extent where it's hard to ignore. I mean, even mainstream Keynesian economists are kind of scratching their heads going, oh, this doesn't look too good.
Well, inflation is going to rise in Saudi Arabia because now prices are doubling. And everybody that is using gas for any service that they have, they're gonna have to, you know, increase their prices because they pay double now. So this is the whole thing. When you double something, or you know, when you have the minimum wage or whatever policies are coming out, things are gonna get more expensive. People don't think about that. Like when something, especially as life life dependent as oil is increasing 100%. Think about that in any country that you're around. Think about if gas prices doubled suddenly overnight. What would you do?
Well, and this can't help the fact that the gasoline demand has gone down significantly in places like the United States, etc. And then on top of that, we also see, you know, the banks getting desperate. You see the auto-backed securities, which kind of ties in one way or another to the system. The massive market manipulation, the massive monetary manipulation, it all comes down. It always will, and it always has.
Yeah, well, the more they've been manipulating, the less and less output they get in the economy. So, and they're going to fail miserably with it because they try to, you know, we're going to push more and more money out there. But the problem now, the European Union and everybody else are just, you know, insane amount of money printed out of thin air. And we're going to see this whole central bank scheme coming down very hard. And Saudi Arabia and others are going to be hurt very badly with it.
It doesn't mean, you know, the end for all of us because, of course, there are solutions as we always go into when it comes to a monetary crash, when it comes to a market crash. It's always good to be overly prepared rather than underprepared. And when it comes down to it, self-sustainability and financial responsibility are the hallmarks of freedom and liberty itself.
Education.
And it's so important. Absolutely. You've got to make those negatives into a positive by understanding them and then applying the solutions instead of waiting for the government and banking system to do it when obviously they want to benefit themselves and they love debt servitude. They love shoving you down that bottomless pit of debt because it forces you to ask for a ladder up from the government and the banking system, which puts you in perfect servitude. But with that said, food, water, shelter, self-defense, you're not gathering things for the toughest guy on the block. Of course, we got to look at tangible assets, gold, silver, Bitcoin, the decentralized cryptocurrencies on the blockchain. Stay away from the centrally planned cryptocurrencies, quote unquote, like Ripple, etc. Look into these things. This is not financial advice. This is our opinion legally, but of course, it's something that we should all do our own due diligence on. So thanks for going into this with us, John. There's always so much to talk about. Going into 2018, it's a crazy year. It's going to be crazier than the last, and that's how things kind of start to build up as the system starts to come to its inevitable end. So until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth.
Be the change.
Like what you see here at WAM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so overwhelmingly demonetized and censored by YouTube as the Anti-Defamation League comes in and flags all of our content as hate speech. You can also find me at Josh Sigurdson at steemit.com. That's steemit.com, the future of social media, where you get paid in the upvote of your post via Steem, the cryptocurrency. You can also find our Bitcoin address in the description and the comments below, as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And don't forget to come on down to Anarchapulco in Acapulco, Mexico in February, one of the best events of the year, and you can save money on your tickets by typing in promo code WAM. That's WAM. We'll leave the link below for you, and until next time, don't forget to subscribe. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.